right, good morning. It is the August 5th Urban Economic Development Committee meeting. I'm Councilor Bellis, chairing the meeting until Councilor Lakin gets here. First item on the agenda, I call this meeting to order. Second item on the agenda, Jeff Evans, reappointment to the Tulsa Preservation Commission. Term expires October 1st, 2028. Attended most of the meetings from Council District 9.
I'm here.
Oh, there we go. If you would like to join us at the table, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Hello, if you wouldn't mind telling us a bit about yourself and why you'd like to continue serving on the commission.
All right, I am Jeff Evans. I'm a licensed landscape architect here in Tulsa. Mainly do public work around the state, and so have been doing that for now 24 years. So we, company I am a partner in here in Tulsa called PDG, or Planning Design Group. We do specialize in public stuff, but we also do a little bit of land planning work, and then we do aquatics, and then we have golf course design. So we do a little bit of everything. For the last 4+ years, I've served on the Preservation Commission. Took over for the gentleman that had left, Mr. Shears. Have a love for architecture, a love for Tulsa, grown up here in the area. Coweta, actually, where I grew up, but have lived in Tulsa for the last 23 years continuously. As you said, I am in Ward 9, and so really enjoy the historic architecture, really enjoy the preservation of those things. I know Tulsa has a lot of heart in architecture, whether it be in the downtown or the districts that are represented in our overlay districts, and we continue to expand that and grow the Preservation Commission areas.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any? Councilor Bengal?
Yeah, so I sit on the TAO board, and, some of the buildings that are here in Tulsa that, have had, like the Philcade and some of these other buildings. I like that, there's a board that's specifically deliberate towards preserving the historic aspects of the city,
Yes.
especially when it comes to its architecture and stuff. So thank you for serving on this and making sure we protect that history.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for your service.
much. We were just finishing up him, and I forgot to announce that.
Ah, got it, okay. So, thank you. I guess you're up on the city council agenda for approval on the 19th of August, so you're welcome to come
All right.
if you'd like. Any questions? I don't know really where we caught it.
I will
Do you
be
have
out
a
of town on the 19th, but so I will not make it, but if there's anything that's needed, please let me know beforehand.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you so much for
Yeah.
continuing to serve.
we'll do it. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Okay. Oh, there you are. Joshua Starks,
incognito.
reappointment to the Human Rights Commission. Term expires July 1st, 2028.
Got a different
Attended
look today.
80% of the meetings.
I got sick.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. We don't know you very well, so.
You got the
It's okay.
broken chair.
Yeah. Well, I felt like it's because I'm so tall. You guys were like,
I'm so
you
sorry.
can't,
It's
you
so
can't tower over
unacceptable.
it.
Josh, I usually end up with that chair.
Yeah, we say that chair for you.
We need to swap that
I
out.
remember this is interrogation tactics in military training.
Well, we do know you pretty well, so you don't have to go into great detail, but tell us why you want to continue serving on the Human Rights Commission and anything else you needed for us to know.
Yeah, the Human Rights Commission has been extraordinary. I think this is my 7th year. After 7 years, we're finally getting some movement on access for getting reporting in. I know that Laura started that back in the day when she was started on the commission, or Councilor Bell started on the commission. But myself, I run Veterans Day Parade. I've run the VFW for about 10 years, working in veteran nonprofits. I was a 2-tour combat veteran in Afghanistan as an infantry officer and commander in Afghanistan. Kind of going back over our casualties from Oklahoma, if you guys remember the 11-12 deployment. And so it's a rough time for all of us. So bringing everybody together. My focus really in the veterans community is, one, to make sure good legislation goes through. So I've been working in D.C. a lot in the last 2-3 years, going back and forth to D.C. and pushing legislation there, and then making sure back here at home that we're putting events together to bring veterans together and connect that and get our kind of peer support groups the best that we can. My continued work on the commission here in the city is just to make sure that the veterans' voice is heard, making sure like when we get new classes of police officers move through, making sure that we get veterans in there to kind of talk about the special considerations when it comes to veterans when they go in and move and do an arrest or something. You know, veterans, we're trained to escalate a situation if we're in a violent or a stressful situation, and if we're having a moment, it takes a little bit of special care to try and get us to de-escalate sometimes when we don't see the world the right way sometimes. So it's a lot of that and communicating that to the city and just making sure that the citizens of Tulsa are getting the best, human rights that they can. I mean, I love being on the commission and helping out everywhere. It's not just for veterans, but I love helping out in all the commissions.
Good. Well, we appreciate your service. Counselor Bellis has a question for you.
Yeah, could you share with us more of what you're currently studying? Because I think it adds such a wonderful facet to what you're bringing to the commission.
Well,
If
thank
you
you.
didn't bring it up.
Yeah, I left aviation. I did a 27-year career in aviation, aside with the military. But now I'm working into social work, so I'm currently working towards my master's in social work as well as a double master's in public administration. So, being on the commission here is kind of guided, and all the nonprofit work has been my passion, so.
Double masters.
Yeah, no, I've had the privilege to work with Josh for several years across so many spaces, and I'm always excited to get to keep working with you. And I'm so grateful for your perspective and the representation for veterans that you bring to so many spaces. I also just wanted to check before, I know Councilor Gilbert also had her hand up. Is there anything, I know you've spent a lot of time on Capitol Hill lately. Is there anything you think we should be aware of federal policy-wise that's like coming down the pike to this level, or that you think we should be making sure we're reaching out to our federal delegation regarding, or just be aware of for the future?
So absolutely, I think at the city level, we're working the Take Care of America's Veterans Act, we're working the Major Richard Starr Act. There's a whole list of priorities that I've been working for the last few years with veterans from around the country through the VFW legislative, and I'm the combat veteran focal for Oklahoma, so I'm the person they send up to do that, represent the state, kind of big responsibility. But that being said, what I think that at the city level is the one thing that I try to communicate most is the economic impact our veterans bring to the community. Oklahoma, above all other states, has a 10% veteran rate, which is kind of insane when you think that at the average of the nation is about 5%. Some states only have 2% veterans. When you think about disability and you think about pensions, you think about the medical issues that occur to veterans. That's why we have such a great VA system here, is because we have such a high percentage of veterans. That economic impact from those disabilities, those retirements come into the community, and it really lifts our budget way up when it comes to spent dollars in Tulsa. So focusing on that and making sure that we're making Tulsa a great place to live, which we have for veterans, absolutely, it raises all ships. That tide raises all ships as we help our veterans. Not only that, but you have an engaged populace. We have the largest Veterans Day parade. It's just really amazing. But that's the main focus right now is, I won't get into the details on Take Care of America Veterans Act other than it's bad. We don't need it. But yeah, that's probably all I would say.
Thank you.
Bingle and then Gilbert.
Yeah, I barely know the guy. So it's nice that we finally meet. So I'm just kidding, obviously. Josh, you're a great friend. You have a wonderful family. You're really using your talents for veterans, for your city and for the state. And so I couldn't be more proud of another veteran for the work that you do. Some of it is very selfless. I think if you've never been to the VFW, you create an atmosphere that is inclusive for everybody. And so I tell you, from one veteran to another, I love you. And I think your service, continuing to serve in any capacity for us as a city is just another example of your shining light. So I appreciate you in every aspect.
Thank you. My focus when I took over the VFW was not to be your grandfather's VFW, and so the vision that I set forth, and I think that we've accomplished it, was to create a lighthouse. When you think in that concept of a lighthouse, when you're out on shore and you're just having a couple of drinks with your friend and you're just throwing some poles in the water and the water's clear and calm, you don't need much. But that lighthouse is nice to look at. When the storms start to roll in and the sea gets a little choppy, you can still make it to dock, but it's nice to know that lighthouse is there in case you get into trouble and it can guide you in. But sometimes when the hurricane rolls in or the squall comes in fast and you're looking at, 14-foot troughs and 14-foot crest, you can't see 5 feet in front of you. A lot of times our veterans are coming in from the community that way. Our job at the VFW is to be that lighthouse and to understand where that veteran's at when they walk in that door and make sure we give them the treatment that's appropriate and try to help them. And so exactly what you're saying, like, it's a great place to visit, but I find that it's also a great place that if you're trying to claw yourself up on the sand to get to shore after
Yep.
climbing over 14-foot waves, it's a great place to be too.
Yep, so anything that you're willing to do for the community is a benefit to us all, so I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service, for protecting us and protecting our freedom, something that we take for granted daily. But thank you for being the advocate for those that have served and are serving. Appreciate you.
Thank you. If there's one last thing I could add real quick, I would say that Philip does a great job representing veterans for the city. He's back there in the corner. But I've also lobbied and as the Veterans Commissioner in the city, what I found the other day when we had a town hall and afterwards Councilor Bellis and Representative Blanchard came over, we talked and what we found was the new drone company that's coming in, I think it's Mana, right? Well, we talked to the CEO. He said that he needed 1,000 new drone operators and builders and repairers, and because he's starting up that organization. It just so happened at the same time I was talking to one of my good friends who's the incoming commander of the 45th. They're getting ready to switch the 180th Cavalry over into drone operations, which means they're going to end up training about 670 drone operators. That's going to move right in, and so we were able to make that connection and bring it there. And so what I've asked, and it's something for the council to consider, I think that there really needs to be a full-time position that can monitor what training is coming to our National Guard units and our Army units, and then relay that to the companies that are thinking about moving into Tulsa so that we can get those connections made, because it really is an in-depth study. And I think a position for military affairs and veterans in the city full-time would be a great option, if you guys ever considered it. So,
That's fantastic.
thank you.
Can I just
Sure.
Sorry, I just went and made a face at our Chief of Economic Development, behind you, Aaron Persley. And I feel like that would be something that sounds really worth connecting further about, given all of those potential kind of career and economic opportunities to lift people up. So,
Absolutely.
I know you're not an Air Force guy, but you would support F-35s taking the place of F-16s, right?
Yes, I will tell you what, some F-18s saved my keister in Afghanistan a couple times.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have special penchant for the Navy.
Yes.
Only the aviators.
I can't believe you said that.
Yeah, they'll find a way to, the other ones that don't aviate will find a way to save you some other time.
I know, right?
Okay, thank you very much. On the 19th, you'll be up, okay? Thank you. Item 7 has been rescheduled, so if you're here for the Tulsa Regional Chamber, that will not be taking place today. Item 4, $500,000 appropriation for Gilcrease Expressway Bridge repair. How you doing?
Well, Jared Moore from Budget.
Good.
This action is appropriating $500,000 from fund balance within the TARE fund. There was a neighborhood dumpster program truck that was traveling, and the bed was up slightly. It struck the westbound Gilcrease Expressway Bridge, and so these funds will repair that bridge, put it back in order.
What happened to the bridge?
I have Philip here and
Sustained
Jason.
some damage?
It sustained some substantial damage and
Go.
needs fixing now. We're already in design to get it repaired, and these funds will get the construction through.
Okay, anybody have any questions? All right, 5 is $34,000-ish for assessment revenue collections.
Yes, sir, this one's housekeeping. The TSID fund over-collected revenue by this $34,000 following the authorizing resolution. It gets split between capital and services, and we turn over all of it, less admin. And so this is taking that $34,000 that was over-collected last year, beat revenue, it wasn't over-collected. It beat revenue estimates, and turning it over to DTP to continue services in the downtown area.
Okay. Any questions? Item 6 relates to District 5 and the esteemed Counselor Gilbert's request for $50,000 for a water fountain in Darlington Park.
Well, it's just
Tee
not
this
a,
up?
yeah, so it's just not a water fountain, it's basically a water meter and a water line. So several years ago, the residents over in Hoover applied for a grant to help with improvements at the Darlington Park. One of them was to get a water fountain. So they got the water fountain. The water fountain has been sitting in a resident's garage for years.
Wow.
Yeah. So, we would, after having.
It's just like a water fountain that
It's
people
just like
drink
a
out of.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
water fountain. So, through our District 5 meetings that we've been having, a couple of those meetings, we asked for community input on community funds. And so this was one of those recommendations from residents to get this water fountain out of this resident's garage and in the park.
What is it? Did you say a water mine? Did you say that?
Water line,
Line.
line.
It's like, what is a water mine? That's the first time I've heard
Hey,
this.
it
This
is,
is what happens when you turn 59.
Huh?
exactly.
No,
Oh, boy.
I know. Slow on the uptake. Audibly, for sure. Okay, any questions about the water mine? or
Water
line?
Thanks
Or
for
whatever
tracking
else
down
you
that
said.
water fountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Did the city, did you say the city bought the water fountain, or did somebody else
No,
buy the
it
water
was
fountain?
it was bought from the grant that helped with park improvements.
Okay.
That the neighborhood had applied for,
All
so.
right.
But there was just never been a water line
Right.
in Darlington Park.
Gotcha. Sir?
So are they gonna donate that to the city for us to put in? And,
The water fountain?
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
So be looking for
that'll
that.
be coming back as a
Right.
donation, okay.
unless it was, I need to look
Could've
that
already
up,
been
because it might have
accepted.
already been within that grant that helped with park improvements already done, but it's just been
Because I'm
sitting.
assuming we're gonna maintain the water meter and the line. and
Yes,
the Fountain attached to it.
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okey-dokey. All right, 8 is a donation from Anchor Stone for boulders that were at Fourth and Denver to go to the Greenway site, valued at $1,100. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to get in the queue.
Oh, yeah, I know it's yours. I don't have any. I don't know who's
Who's
gonna
here to speak
talk
on it?
about this.
I'll get in the queue.
Nobody's here to speak on it, I'll speak on it.
Oh, wait, no, do you have any information?
I just have, we just came up with the
Can you come to
valuation.
the table?
Yeah,
That's-
Thanks.
I'll tack on.
I've been
since-
requesting this item for a year, so I'm glad that we
Have it, yeah.
have it more than 12 months later. As you all know, large boulders were placed across from on the street from the bus station. At the time, it was perceived to be hostile architecture, and then called a community art project, which caused a lot of alarm in the arts community here, I will say, including with the Arts Commission, because as you know, we have a very specific ordinance process for art, publicly funded art to go through the Arts Commission process. This did not do that. And when the chair of the Arts Commission spoke out about that very publicly, we see that eventually she was removed from her chairmanship. So I just did not want to let this go by without stating that unequivocally. This was not an art project. I don't think it honestly was ever intended to be an art project, and I don't know why it was ever framed that way for the public. It's not helpful. Certainly, as we are an art and culture city and the capital of art and culture and humanities in our state, with a very well-established ordinance around publicly funded art and a very well-established arts commission. So it's regrettable that the chairwoman doing her job led to her not having that position anymore. She's certainly an arts leader in this community and will continue to advocate and amplify the need for publicly funded art as well as just funded art in general. So it's been more than a year since these were placed. I still am not clear on who requested Anchor Stone Company to make the donation to the city of Tulsa. And if that request was to do a community art project, which I really think it wasn't, I do think it was to put hostile architecture in place. So, Mr. Zachary, do you know who requested that Anchor Stone Company make this donation to the city?
No, ma'am.
Okay. It was just told to you that a donation came?
Yes, and
Okay.
then we were told to develop prices, so a donation
Could be
processed.
assessed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I do have questions about the assessment. I did see the math behind it, but just as somebody, I mean, this must be deeply discounted wholesale, direct from distributor or something for this number and that size.
Actually, the more processing of boulders and rocks into riprap, the more processing you do, it's more expensive. These were picked up and transported by city staff and city equipment, so that part is not factored in this, but just the rough cost of, it is a rock per ton at that size. Riprap has a different, so this actually, we equated it to and worked with them for a 24-inch riprap price at $20 per ton. So these would be somewhat less expensive, but the hauling was all taken on by the city, so
And
that
what would
cost is
the
not factored in.
estimated cost of that hauling and staff time be if we were factoring that in?
I don't have those figures. It could be developed, what it costs.
I think
to
it would be
make those up.
important. I know in the nonprofit world, we have a donation acceptance policy, because sometimes donations come through that end up costing more money. I ran a nonprofit that had land donated, and, it was like free land, and it was no cost to us, but then we had to take care of it, maintain it, fence it, put water on it, and all the things, so it was not free. I inherited that donation and then realized very quickly, free is not always free. So I would love to know from the employee costs. And the other question I had was, Mr. Zachary, was there any damage caused to the street or under the street from having 24 boulders of this size sit on it for more than a year?
Not that we saw. at all.
Okay.
Yeah, we did protect the sidewalks and made sure that we placed it on into that gravel area. And
Okay.
So there was no busted sidewalks as far as we're aware.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you
Okay.
getting us some additional sunk costs, we'll call them.
Okay.
And I think, we need to be very cognizant that staff time is staff time, and vehicle resources and those things come at a cost as well. So if it's not clear to my colleagues, I think this project was totally unnecessary. It caused national attention for our city in a way that was most unflattering, especially again as we uphold ourselves to be the art, culture, and humanities city, tourist destination of the state. I am amplifying the voices of all the professional artists in this town that were really disturbed by the art washing aspect of this, and I apologize to them that is the tack that the city chose to take when we knew pretty early on this was not going to be a community art project, and now it's actually a infrastructure project because it's going to help with water detention or
Yes,
stormwater.
we'll be putting them as barriers and utilizing them that way.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, seems like a costly donation to receive, so I'm actually be voting no against accepting it.
So you don't want the city, so by voting no, the hope would be to send the rocks back to?
No, the hope would be to send the message, please don't ever do something like this again and tell us that it's for art.
Well, yeah, just to, but if they're not accepted, then they have to be returned, so they can't be used at the green mulch site
Yeah,
for,
I'm okay with that.
what?
Were you needing to have bolters at the green mulch site? This is solving a
We
big
use
problem.
large rocks for bordering and shaping and directing for people to go to channelize folks, so they have a use. I mean, you've seen some of the other boulders around the parks
Sure.
that we use to, so it can be done at that, so.
But is there like a donor list out there, like, we need boulders for all of these things, so we're solving a big problem right now?
No, ma'am.
I didn't think so.
Okay, one more question about that. Would the city have to take them back? Did the city pick them up from Anchor Stone? Or
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I need to get all that and the hauling back. So it is,
So
Counselor,
additional
just to be
costs.
clear,
Oh, I'm
The cost
confident
for-
it'll pass, Counselor.
I'm just asking
I'm
questions.
confident
You
I'm
don't
not
have
Just like
to.
what would
Yeah,
happen.
you don't have to respond. I'm just asking
Yeah.
questions.
Well, I'm not,
I'll find out on
Fair
the
question. I don't think that, we're gonna incur additional costs because it's gonna pass the council to not accept the donation. I'm just sharing with you
It
all.
could,
that
I mean,
I'm
I don't know,
not
that's why I'm asking the questions.
Okay.
Okay, Bellis, and then Dutton, and then Bingle, and then Archie. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, I'll be quick.
Hold your page.
I just wanted to voice that, I had seen plans for what else could have gone at the bus station, kind of design-wise, that would have included more kind of like intentional architecture landscaping to make that a better space, and I still just wish that would maybe happen instead. I am glad that these are moving / have moved out of downtown. I had heard from a lot of nearby businesses, property owners, et cetera, that, they were really collecting a lot of trash, there were rats. So just, from some of those kind of like health, safety, cleanliness perspectives, just really glad to see them go. And in some ways, I guess relieved that we didn't then pursue some painting activity with them, because I don't think there was a way to make them look nice. So I am happy they are finding a higher, better use than what they were doing downtown. That's just my quick 2 cents.
Thank you, Counselor.
Yeah, so I frequent the green waste site regularly, and I'm unsure what the need is out there. I think everything looks really great out there as far as the way it's organized and the stones that are already there. So I'm just kind of unsure what the need is and why that site was chosen.
We were asked to remove the stones and they needed to find a home.
Uh-huh.
And that was the best place that we found for them.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, that's,
Yeah.
Public
I don't
Works
have
is
a better-
solving a problem that didn't ever need to exist, is what I'm hearing.
And I don't think the stones are needed out there, but that's just, I guess they have to go somewhere.
Again, glad they're out of my district.
Yeah.
That's my full statement.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Now it's your problem.
Yeah, you enjoy it.
Thank you. I could actually think of several
Congratulations.
places where they could go.
Bingle, Archie, and then Decker.
Yeah, this is what happens when you don't collaborate. You said, Paul, that if the problem was now placed on your plate. Is there potentially any places where these could be used for flood mitigation in their stormwater system somewhere, where they would be more useful? Have we looked at that?
we have not reevaluated the use for these stones. It was place them, get rid of them.
Yeah, I get
We
that.
did not do a study for a location. So if
Fair.
if there is
Yeah.
if our stormwater group comes up with that we need some type of a diversion to assist in erosion or whatever, they would be a resource that we could tap into and use.
Yeah, I would ask if they have a potential and higher, better use outside of, the green waste facility. I would suggest potentially that we do that. Are you open to rocks?
I need more than rocks.
Wow.
They
Yes.
have
And
a-
I'll take rocks.
They have a rich
Well, go
history.
kick rocks. So I feel like there's probably a better, higher use for these, since we now either accept the donation or return it back. I feel like there's a better use for these.
Just do that.
Yes. Could be used for the South Tulsa Low Water Dam.
So it's a traveling
I
exhibition.
think about $1,100 is gonna
Yeah.
close at $80 million
I got
gap.
1/100th of it already resolved.
I'm just saying.
Well, how many rocks are there? I mean,
Problem
we could
solved.
each-
24.
24.
We could each
So we-
split those.
Again, I'm proposing a traveling exhibition of this art. So,
Yeah, that's all.
We could all get like 2
All
points
right.
on
we're
it.
about to have legal,
I'm
just stop
I'm
it.
supposed to maintain decorum.
Well, I just wanted to clarify, I think Jack did more research on this than I did, but kind of reading his notes, he wasn't under the impression that even a no vote by the council would require the city to try to give them back, that they've essentially been abandoned by the donor. So I would keep that in mind, that I'm not sure if
So they're
a
up for
no
adoption.
Quite a word.
put some kind of a legal requirement to get rid of
I
it.
think it would just, it would not give us
Really generous
title.
certificates.
And so, and that we would not have clean title to the boulders. Which sometimes matters more in like cars and things like that.
Oh, really?
But,
This is officially a Parks and Recreation episode.
But we would not have
I'm
title.
just gonna put that out there.
Sorry.
I really don't think we need to forget, though, how this originated and the fact that we're kind of making light of it right now. I still am offended, grossly offended, that we still don't know where they got, who requested that they get placed there. I think it's offensive to citizens and taxpayers.
That may be one of those things for the next agenda item.
Are we
Archie?
done? Who is in the queue after him? Me?
Yep.
Great.
All right, you stole a little bit of my thunder at the end there. I asked the question earlier, what happens if we reject this donation? And it seems to me that there will not be an effort to take these rocks from the Greenway site and give them back to the stone company. Yeah, I do think that the perception is, how do we address the question of folks in our city who need housing? And so I am open to, as a matter of principle, saying no thanks to accepting the donation, knowing that they'll still be there. I don't know if the Greenway site is the best place. I'm open to rocks and painting them, and I looked it up online, and it looks like they have not been painted. But I think just principally, I think this caused more trouble for the city than maybe it was worth. So we just say, thank you, but no thanks. So I'm considering a no vote as well. And that's not because, I'm upset at anyone, but, I just don't think it was handled in a way that was collaborative.
Dr. Wright, and then
Thank
Hall
you.
Harper.
What is our donation acceptance policy at the city of Tulsa?
Do you answer, you want me to?
And broadly speaking, I'll start and you
Yeah.
fill in. The city council has the sole authority to accept donations. That's by ordinance. It's in Title IV. I think, in terms of legal, we instruct that anything that's any kind of monetary donation, land, anything needs to come through you all.
So by ordinance, we have the sole authority to accept a donation, and it's taken 12 months for it to come before us, despite repeated requests. I don't pretend to know why that is. I can hazard some guess, but this sets a precedence that I don't think we want to see continue. Because that means anyone with an idea that's willing to fund it can just literally plop things down in the middle of the street on our sidewalks because they've decided they know better than the policymakers. And going back to what Councilor Bella said, there was already policy people around a table putting legitimate proposals together that didn't get any sort of funding consideration that I'm aware of. Of course, this is your district, so I don't know.
No,
And when did you find out that these were going in?
after they were in.
So
They were
when the
just
city
kinda there.
council has the sole authority to accept a donation, even the counselor whose district it was going in was not at the table and helping make that decision. I know it's easy to talk about $1,100 in the grand scheme of a $1.23 billion annual budget, but I think this precedence is terrible. I think what it said about our strategy, to Councilor Archie's point, we have a strategy to get people experiencing homelessness housed. We have a strategy for code enforcement. It sounds like it created more health impacts than solved. I wasn't aware of the rat situation, but that's horrific. And, I don't know if that's an ongoing situation over there since that environment's been removed, but it seems like, rats aren't
Yeah, I think
easy
I
to
haven't
disappear.
heard about it as an issue since it was like kind of collecting trash, then you got rats, which really big cities have that happen, and so that's
Which
my
leads-
spin on it, is that we've
Well,
had
and that
a
also-
really big city rat
Yes.
problem temporarily.
And that
Yeah.
also leads to other health
Yeah, no,
problems for our
that's,
population.
that's where I had people express concern that, I think the thing it was seeking to do related to like keeping people from kind of sitting around the bus station like, I think, you know, people were still, you know, then you say, understandably, like, we don't have a lot of other benches, or we've removed benches downtown, and so then people were actually using those more as just like benches, so I think there were just like a lot of unintended consequences, I think,
Yeah.
but that's okay, I don't have to belabor.
I think my
yeah.
biggest frustration is the lack of collaboration, the lack of transparency, the art washing, because to save face. So you're throwing a community who is a pillar of the economy in this city under the bus, and I don't appreciate that, and I think it sets a terrible precedent, and for me, if we have the sole authority to accept donations, then the counselor whose district the donation's going into certainly should be included in the decision-making process, and it should not take 12 months plus to come to our table, and I don't know who else requested, but I've requested multiple times that this come onto our agenda. And the fact that Mr. Zachary had to then go recently decide how much that cost tells me that there was no plan to include us at the beginning, certainly not when it was happening, and even 12 months later. So I know people will probably crack jokes about this, but I just think, I'm hoping I'm asserting that this is not a precedent I want to see happen again. I don't care if it's $100. I don't care if it's $100,000. We should not have this kind of thing where private entities decide they know better than us, and that if they can fund it, then it's going to happen. And that's really the point I'm trying to make here today. With the collateral damage of a very strong leader in our arts community, having Counselor Patrick and I advocate to have a performing artist sit on our commission, and to have that person be the first person to do that, and then work to become the chairwoman, to then be punitively removed because of outspokenness around this issue, I just find the cherry on top of a very terrible situation. So I know we're not going to go back and reverse it. It's nothing against the person that we appointed to replace that person. I think both of them could serve in that capacity, but there's been unintended consequences of that institutional knowledge around the Vision Arts grants, around helping our nonprofit arts producers access those grants, all went when that person was removed. And so for lack of collaboration and lack of consideration of unintended consequences when decisions are made, I think in a very snap, knee-jerk way, this is what we see. And that's really what I'm deeply hoping to avoid moving forward. For future, when there's a donation being considered, is there something we need to do with our ordinance to say before we accept it, before it comes here for us to accept, that we are included, whether it's the chair, vice chair, or the counselor whose district it's going into, be included in that conversation?
I think you could. You'd have to kind of watch mayoral lanes as far as communication with departments and things like that. But I think maybe the bigger issue you're speaking to is the timing of the donation versus when it's actually present. So like in council rules, which just governs counselors' donations and council staff, you know, there's a requirement that there's approval from city council as you regulate before you go seek those donations. So that could be something on the administration side that is looked into. There also could be, I don't believe your ordinance has a timing consideration of when a donation needs to be accepted. That's something you could look at as well.
I think I'd like to look at that, and I'd also like to look at adding language that before donation is put before us for acceptance, because you know, things, travel donations especially, like people have traveled 2 months ago and it comes before us. It's just, are we just rubber stamping these things? It starts to feel that way. So I would love to look at a timing issue, but I would like to look at a pre-timing issue, that when the conversation starts to be had about we'd like to donate to the city of Tulsa or to city employees to be able to do a thing, that there's some mechanism where we have a conversation at the council. Obviously, 2 or 3 counselors can't decide what all 9 of us would do, but at least you could say we were informed, we were collaborative in the discussion around it, we flagged these concerns, or we supported them. Because I just can imagine special interests having an idea about what needs to be in your district or what needs to be in your district and going, I'm willing to fund it and I'll just donate it. And there's no conversation around it. So that's something I'd like for us to explore. Okay, I know we have other big topics on the agenda. I'm glad, thank you for bringing this before us. I'm sorry,
The
Mr.
answers.
Zachary, that, you're kind of put in the middle of it, but
Yeah,
thanks for the
Councilman Hall,
information.
I just have one question. Anchor Stone Company,
Yes.
are they a local company?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, they do a lot of that quarry work, and they have plants in multiple places around town. Yes, sir.
I just have one more question of clarity, and this, I think this is more for legal and Sarah. I want to be clear. If we reject the donation, you use the word abandon. So that's a problem for me. When you say abandon, this means that it is now ours. Good, but for good or better or worse, right? What we do with them is now up to us. So, obviously, we're getting the stones one way or another. What I don't want to do is incur unnecessary additional costs of where we relocate these stones without having a deliberate plan. Either they're going to go to the Greenway site, or we use them for some sort of stormwater
I think they're
mitigation.
already
They're
there.
at the Greenway
They're
site.
already out there.
Oh, they're already there.
Yes.
They're there.
We've already incurred the cost.
Another-
This is all
All right.
past.
Another lack of transparency.
This is what happens when you're a director of Last to Know. I didn't know they were there.
He said it
so-
earlier.
Oh, I
think you could
apologize.
25
accept
minutes.
them, I think you could accept them for a limited purpose.
Okay.
I think potentially you could put some direction around your donation. City Council's accepting the donation for the purpose of these stones at the Greenway site at this location.
We're not accept them at all, because what I'm hearing is
Okay.
they're already
Or,
So
out.
yeah.
they're already there,
That's-
Paul.
that's also
Yes.
good.
Well, then, I take back what I said. Because I don't want to incur additional costs of moving 24 stones.
No, I'm totally with you. We've already moved 24 stones
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah, we're
Yeah, let's
done
not move
here.
my third time.
Yeah, and if we can do it on the restricted basis where they're used at the Greenway site or for stormwater purposes.
Yeah.
Then.
But what
then we get to
precedent does
decide-
that set?
Hold on just a second. Well, I mean, we still get 24 stones that we didn't have that could be of use to the
So if I want to
city of
donate
Tulsa.
cars to the city of Tulsa and just leave them on the street and call
No,
it a
we just went
donation?
through that. You just went through what the process should be. So we should be receiving the donation and then deciding.
Yeah, I
ultimately
know
what
what the process
happens.
should be. I'm concerned about precedent here, is
Yeah,
all.
but this is, I mean, I've been here for a long time, as you know, and I don't really remember receiving anything that was this delayed in getting onto our agenda. Every once in a while, we have something that's slightly delayed, and it's like a special event permit too. It's like, great, so if we say no, then everybody has to cancel it, and the event is 2 days away. So we've made some accommodations there to get a little bit further in front of that. We can continue to make progress in figuring out how to accept donations well in advance of those donations actually doing the work in the city that they've been designed to do, whether they be boulders or cars or the wide variety of other things, travel, like you earlier said. So I think there's some opportunities. I don't want this one instance. It seems like these boulders could have benefit to us, and they definitely, as you said earlier, they're definitely gonna have cost to us if we move them back again to wherever they came from. So they seem useful to me.
Why is it taking so long for us to, why is it taking so?
Great question, Counselor.
Sorry.
No, I think
Yeah,
I'm in the queue,
I
but
think it's a
why?
very good question.
But I don't know if we're going to.
An
I
ordinance
think
isn't
we
a
need to-
suggestion.
We might never get to the
I
bottom
think
of
we need
this.
to investigate that outside of this. This-
Great, I think that
this
leads to
agenda item
the
is
agenda
related
item
to
9.
Accepting the boulders for use at the Greenway site.
And celebrating this better use.
Yes, there you go.
Yes. Outside of District 4.
Okay, anything else? Anyone
Abandoned
else?
cars are used for art projects. I visited the one in Amarillo. I'm just saying, I don't want people to get into this habit of, we have a
Oh,
thing to
yeah.
donate, and you should make it useful on our behalf.
Yep.
But I like the idea of investigation, so let's move on to number 9.
9, discussion regarding an overview of the city council's
That was
authority as
35
outlined in
minutes.
Article 2 and other relevant sections of the
Could have been
charter.
easily avoided a
This
year
came
ago.
to us from Hall Harper, Bellis, and Dr. Wright. Do you guys want to tee it up before Sarah gives us a presentation?
Sure. You want me to go first?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So, over the years, we've looked at the city charter, and we've, proposed amendments. We've also had discussions about what the authority is of a city council in a strong mayor form of government. Clearly, the framers of our charter gave us very specific authorities, and so I asked Ms. Davis to kind of review that with all of us, since some of us have been here way longer than others, and I want to make sure all of us have the same information at the same time, and I want the public to have the same information at the same time. For those of you who are, on a campaign trail right now, I am finding a lot of constituents think we have a lot more authority to do things that we don't. And even for those of you who are not on a campaign trail, I'm sure you've had constituents who say, why can't you do that? Because the expectation is that we can, which has then led to, do we need to amend the charter? So I thought if we could just go through Article 2. I think some of it is SOP that we do every week, right? Approving ordinances and resolutions. So I don't think we'll have to go, I don't know what Ms. Davis has planned, but I don't think we as a body have a question about every section of the charter, of the article, but there are some for me, after 8 years, that I don't have clarity on, and I'm sure there are some for you. So I don't think I got a handout, Sarah.
Here, I just made it for our normal print.
Oh, your print people, okay, well, I'll follow along. But for anyone,
Hard copy.
oh, that's okay.
Our hard copy counselors.
In our backup documentation, there is an excerpt of the full Article 2, and then you can also find it on Munis with the full charter. So unless Counselor Bellis or Hall Harper want to add any more to this, we should just turn it over to Administrator Davis.
No, I think I'll just tack on, and I think this is, I was actually just discussing this with the constituent earlier. Our city council, actually, we're not that old of a body, relatively. And so there are elements and powers within the charter that I just think we historically haven't explored or utilized as a body. And so that's part of why I was interested in this, to just kind of refresh some of the options and powers that we do have to ensure that we're using them whenever the moment calls for it, or just that we have the knowledge of all the tools at our disposal to make sure we're best serving our constituents. I think this is true when you look, as someone who's nerdily read the whole charter a few times, when you look across so many different elements of it, including for various commissions and so much else, there just are these varying powers or possibilities that have historically literally never been deployed, which may or may not have uses today. And so I'm glad that we can have this kind of like refresher and opportunity to consider, what the intentions of those were and if we should utilize them.
Yeah, I'll just tag on to that as recent as last night, when I was knocking on doors, this topic came up and I had to respond. That's not an authority or power that the city council has. And so I really, and really thinking about having some town halls even about it, to let constituents know and understand what form of government we have and what we can and cannot do at this table. Because to your point, there's just a lot of misunderstanding about that. And it's not a matter of question of throwing anyone under the bus or anything like that for me. It's just a matter of understanding. And so, that's why I'm definitely
And we
going to
can
support
amend
this.
the charter, so
Well, yeah.
if there's consensus around.
And I said that too, it takes a vote of the people to do that.
Correct.
And so again, there's still a need for raising awareness and information, not only for us, but also for the citizens.
Okay, Ms. Davis with the PowerPoint.
Yeah. So thank you all, Sarah Davis, Council Administrator for the City Council. The councilors did a good job introducing some of the topics, and so I was asked to give an overview of Article 2. There are some council authorities outside of Article 2 that I went ahead and tried to summarize in here as well. And so I'm glad, though, that you started with just the citizen lens of this. So the first few slides, I know you all know this, but since the public is watching, I thought it was important to kind of go over some of our form of government items. And so in 1908, the city council, or not the city council, the city of Tulsa adopts its first charter. There was a mayor and 4 commissioners, and we can do bonus points. People can name those 4 commissioners and what they were. But and then in 1989, as the councilors explained, the charter changed into a strong mayor form of government. So yes, a relatively younger structure of government. Between those two dates, I think there were 4 other attempts to change the form of government, but the current form of government was pretty overwhelmingly accepted by the public and voted on by the public, and there were a variety of reasons. Some found it to be a more representative form of government. There was also just some operational overlap, that there was better direction to the city departments, that you didn't have city departments with kind of 4 different bosses going through them. So there is a history on the city council's website on that form of government if the public would like to read it. And so I also thought it would be helpful to frame, as Councilor Paul Harper said, the different general powers of each of our elected officials. So we have a mayor that's elected, city auditor that is elected both citywide, and 9 city councilors by council district. And this slide represents high level those authorities. This is not an exhaustive list of those authorities, but the mayor really manages the day-to-day administrative functions. They execute the municipal laws that are put into place and make the appointments to ABCs. The city council actually says it shall listen to the concerns of citizens, adopt municipal laws, do the final approval of the city's annual budget. As far as it relates to the administration, the city council does evaluate the effectiveness of city operations and confirm citizens to ABCs. And then we have the city auditor, who was actually here a month or 2 ago, if anybody wants to hear more about how the city auditor gets his powers. They provide oversight. A lot of it's risk-based financial oversight. And they have projects there, and they can receive projects by ordinance. So the city council, or the city charter, as I mentioned, has responsibilities that are found throughout the charter, but also in Article 2. And so the ones that are outside of Article 2, some of these you see every day, and some of these you very, very rarely see. So the first 2, you see authorities, boards, and commissions, you've seen them on this agenda. They do, and the council has roles in confirmation and removals from those. You have the legislative authority to waive fines, fees, and penalties for good cause shown. So you will see those sponsored on a council agenda under Section 8. The council has a lot of authority about use in the right-of-way and public property. And so that's why you see license agreements come through the city council. That's why you see some of those rights-of-way items come through. Anytime a state law says a governing body is responsible for something, our charter says that is the city council in our language. You also approve executive orders creating and abolishing divisions. And like a very good example of a very rare one, there's a unique authority for discipline trials for the fire department.
We have had.
And so this again, not exhaustive, but they are spread throughout the city charter in various sections. So getting to Article 2, Section 1 of Article 2 says that all legislative power, except for initiative and referendum, which is reserved for the people and does take precedence over the city council's legislative authority, are vested in the city council. So at a high level, this is the legislative branch of government. In Article 2, and as Councilor Dr. Wright mentioned, the full copy of Article 2 is in backup. But to summarize it, Article 2 does 3 things. It establishes processes. So it talks about how many meetings the city council needs to have, how you call special meetings. It establishes some city council authority, and it also puts some prohibitions or some guardrails around what city council can and can't do. And so like you said, you're pretty well versed in what you can do on budget, ordinances, resolutions. Those all come through city council. You do have an obligation to review the charter. The time limit, though, that you have to review the charter is actually prescribed in ordinance. So that is a policy call that a city council made at some point. The city council does do appeals from administrative action. So throughout the entire code, you will see multiple places where if a permit is issued, a license, things like that, sidewalk fee in lieu of, all of those are rooted in this appeals from administrative action. And so each of those appeals are grounded in ordinance depending on the topic. The council approves settlements in excess of $1 million. That's a relatively recent one, sometime in the last 10, 15 years that one came in. The council has authority on investigations and hearings. I do have more slides on that, as well as prohibiting interference with appointments or removal from the classified service. And there are allowances for the council or a councilor to comment to the mayor regarding fitness for duty for civil service. So the next few slides are gonna go deeper into those bottom three. I figured that's where some of the questions were. The council may choose to make comments or recommendations on the efficiency, economy, and effectiveness at the administration. Councilors cannot give orders to the subordinate of the mayor. The councilors can direct the council staff. They can direct the city attorney, and there are some provisions for city clerk as well.
What about a personnel director?
The council confirms the hiring of the personnel director, but doesn't direct their day-to-day operations. But you do have a role in that confirmation, just like the city attorney as well. And then there's some communication guidelines. So you can, again, provide information on somebody's fitness for office in the civil service. And it also draws out who council can communicate on matters of city business. So it's not you can communicate about something that's not city business to somebody who works for the administration, to the mayor, the heads of divisions and departments of the city, and to other persons that that the mayor designates. The second one, I don't believe divisions and departments was always in the charter. I think that was potentially added after adoption of the charter. I'll have to go look up that date though. And so the one that probably raises most questions is Article 2, Section 17. And I tried to highlight some of those key words. So the council, it's a permissive power. The council may investigate. But the conclusion of investigations usually is making appraisals, comments, and recommendations to the mayor. And the council is a body, can subpoena witnesses, books, documents, and again, the qualifier there, though, is necessary for the discharge of the duties of the council. So you would want to identify the duty that you're trying to carry out before exercising that power. There are consequences for not following those things for subpoena. That's found in ordinance, and I think that's also under Title IV as well. So I tried to, I just made this chart up. So this is not found in the charter. I think there is a concept of, they say the council doesn't use their investigatory power. I think that's maybe true for those formal mandatory investigations. But the council investigates things every day. It just depends on the level of formality that you are investigating things. And so try to create a chart. This is largely based on Section 17 and 19 of Article 2 of how the council uses this power. So probably daily and probably multiple times a day, you make informal departmental inquiries about what is occurring in a department, why a certain action happened, you're hearing something from a citizen. Those are where you kind of meet your Article 2 guardrails, where you need to communicate with the people that you're designated to communicate with. And an individual counselor can do that. The council as a body usually probably doesn't, but you could say, Sarah, will you please email off of a committee, and follow up on this? That's you investigating that. Council can make work groups on a specific topic. You know that those can happen organically. They also can, let's say we have a committee item and Counselor Bush seems most interested in it. It can kind of organically be, hey, Counselor Bush, do you and Counselor Gilbert want to work together on this, and bring something back? There are formal council committee discussions that you can just request on a topic basis. You can also, though, and you do this sometimes in ordinance, require quarterly or periodic reporting. And then you also.
That's my job.
Yes, yes. There is, so we've seen that exercised several times
Champion of quarterly report.
in the last year. There is also more formal council rule specific task forces, subcommittees, advisory committees. Depending on the form that those take, each of those have different obligations in council rules. Good example of those in the vision process, you use that to develop something, but you've also done task forces for a variety of issues over the years. And those are usually, when you get to that council-created task force, the chair can do it, or the council can do it by a vote. And those start ticking in some formal procedures that you have adopted by council rule. And then the last one is the formal investigation. I'm just calling it with mandatory participation, because that's where you could vote to have a formal investigation without using subpoenas or without using those other items. But if you start putting those items into the process, it would be important to adopt a process for that and also to define the scope so you make sure that you're compliant with the charter. And we've already kind of gone over those subpoena items. And then just some considerations and investigations. We've talked about scope and defining success. Some of these considerations are just good policy and work considerations, but some are legal considerations as well. So you would want to know what your desired recommendation is, identify the council duty that you're attempting to carry out in order to develop your scope. You'll think through the most effective way to make policy. So I always try to go through, how are you finding solutions? How are you identifying if the organization has capacity to carry that out? How are you including the feedback of stakeholders, getting buy-in of stakeholders? You always want to have that in the back of your mind when you're picking the right road to go down in something. Do you want to develop a process? And then there are several legal considerations, and this is really topic-based. I wouldn't be able to give you a presentation and say universally all of these legal considerations apply to every scenario. But there are rules of evidence and procedure. We do need to remember we are a government, and when you compel people to do things, some of those government triggers and protections do come into play. And so there are times that criminal investigations are on there. So if something is being criminally investigated and then it is improperly handled in a council investigation, that can mess up the criminal investigation. And so that's why you would want to be knowledgeable of what the full scope and scale is going on in order to get there. Criminal investigations, when I kind of read about legislative investigations, they do say that that's maybe not something that's proper for a council investigation. If a counselor believes a crime has been committed, then you should file it with the appropriate authorities. There are due process considerations, so people, when they are compelled to do something, are required to be given notice and opportunities to be heard. There could be HR personnel policies and procedures. There could be collective bargaining agreements that come into consideration, and other relevant local, state, and federal laws, depending on what the topic is, that need to be considered. And then it needs to be something in the purview of the council. Council probably shouldn't investigate the city of Owasso, for the city of Owasso. The council does have a lot of a lot of purview.
We have been thinking about that.
Yeah, so you heard it here first. That's not something I've been able to identify as yet in our purview. Executive session may be appropriate, but may not be appropriate, depending on whatever the topic is and the scope of the investigation. And then finally, there's always cost and resources. There's cost of not doing things, there's cost of doing things, and then there are resources. And there's just value trade-offs and priority trade-offs. Formal investigations do take a large amount of time, so you are trading off something you are not doing. But some items aren't appropriate for a lesser investigation. So those are just the considerations. That's it.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for summarizing that so succinctly. Counselor Hall Harper.
Yeah, on the third slide, where under the city auditor powers, the third bullet, serve as an independent eye on city operations and resources. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, so the city auditor can get projects, and I think the charter says that the council can assign projects by ordinance. And so the auditor has been assigned projects historically through ordinance. I would say traditionally, most of the time they have been financial-based or risk-based
And that's my
projects.
question. Does it have to be tied to something more financial or budgetary, or could it be
You know,
anything related to city government?
You recently did, that Councilor Bellis sponsored the data collection role. And so I think it could be a little bit broader. I know we've asked the auditor to do.
Data collection.
Go
Making
ahead.
it where, because what it said previously under like, or, because we can do some ordinance putting some of those parameters or requesting certain things of the auditor when it comes to utilizing their independent powers. And it was like, they could collect data, but then they could only then like release it externally with analysis and their own kind of like assessment of that data. What we did as a body together that I had brought to the table was making it so they could just collect data and release it without adding that layer of their assessment. That way they could get and release more data, because otherwise, you know, they have all these layers of projects they would have to go through, or even just doing analytics that may not be necessary. This just made it where, hey, if there's data that they should pursue getting and releasing or making a dashboard of or a map of, then they can just do that without having to go through a lot of extra steps.
That's data related to
Anything in the city.
anything related
Yeah,
to local government?
the provision I think you're relying on in that one is under section 3F. And it says the auditor shall conduct such internal audits of city programs, activities, functions as the council may require by ordinance or resolution, and report in writing the results of such audits to the mayor and to the council. So I think that is ultimately the provision that was relied on to go forward with that data.
And I, just as a quick clarifying note there, the auditor had asked me to do that, where he's like, I have all this data I would like to release to people, but I need the council to help me make that possible, because otherwise I just have this long backlog of things I'm supposed to like analyze before I can just go, here's the information for everyone. So that really helped with kind of government transparency steps, and is something that we could utilize more in the future as a council as well.
Where did the code group go? What was that group?
Oh, the urban
that-
coders.
Yeah,
Code for
they
Tulsa.
had,
Yeah,
they had a lot of access to.
or we had the data, the
Well,
data
they had
pioneers.
access to data that they made
That
available
was
to the public.
It was the urban data pioneers. I know I've always
Okay,
been concerned where we
yeah.
used to have so many more maps and dashboards, and I think those programs just sunsetted. And actually, some of the people that used to be engaged in that had worked with the auditor, like separately at his former private company, 9B.
Were they funded, or they were just
It was-
volunteers?
I thought they were
weren't
volunteers
It was like a volunteer
too.
corps, but somebody was
Yeah.
managing it. There was just, we used to have a
The
lot.
OPSI office
There we go, there it
used
is.
to manage
We've just
it.
used to have a
James
lot more.
Wagner was the
When he was the chief
staff assigned, and then he
innovation.
became the finance director.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it went away.
But
It
no,
did seem like
It was really
5
good.
years ago, or maybe a little bit
Yeah.
longer, we had access to.
a lot more data.
So-
I think
Yeah,
there were
maybe,
two
and
other
maybe we
things.
still have
There
access
was
to the
there
same
was a
data.
ransomware attack, and then there also
Yeah.
was, which did
That
affect some of the
really affected
dashboards.
Sure.
And then
Yeah.
a
That's when
pandemic.
most of them went missing.
Then what?
A pandemic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's about.
When we
the
talk
time
about
things-
resource management, where we
Yeah.
have to Yeah.
focus our energy.
But on the plus
Sure.
side, now we've institutionalized something that we did like as a resource into the auditor's office. And then we could, per kind of what Counselor Hall Harper is delving into, we could probably leverage that further to make sure we have more transparent, frequently accessible information. And actually some of the same talent is now at the auditor's office that was
Yes.
doing that free previously.
Yep.
The other question I had was, these aren't numbered, so, the slide that says Articles 2, Section 17, you mentioned consequences that,
For the
Mm-hmm.
in our investigation.
For people not complying, like if the council issued a subpoena or issued a request for a testimony, if somebody does not comply with those things, there are ordinances that govern that procedure. And so I think,
Is that in the charter or
it's
just in the?
in an ordinance.
In an ordinance.
Uh-huh, and so it's.
Can you expound on what that is?
Yeah, it's section
Okay.
311, contempt of council. And
Section 311?
And
Under
it says, under, is it under Title 4, Section 311?
It is.
Title 4, Section 311. And contempt of council could include willful disobedience of a process or order lawfully issued by the city council, willful resistance to the execution of a lawful process or order of the city council in the scope of an investigation or hearing under Article 2, Section 17. So if you're utilizing the formal investigatory authority, and there's non-compliance with it, then there are penalties. It's a misdemeanor.
It's a misdemeanor, so that will fall into,
You would refer it, so then in B, you would refer it to the city attorney, who would then refer it to municipal court for
okay. that's what I
prosecution.
said, because we're not judges, but it allows us to file charges.
Yes.
Okay.
Alrighty. Counselor White?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't know who was talking. I want to stay on this, section 17 and go back to the slide that says considerations and investigations that Ms. Davis put together. So if we were to pursue something more formal, which I appreciate your spectrum that you put here, it helps level set that clearly we are at less formal levels, doing this kind of work all the time. I think the closest we came to a more formal process was the equality indicator hearings of 2019, and at that time, Counselor Hall Harper did suggest that we go as formal as possible. We got to a place where we were a little less formal, but pretty formal, with a lot of resources and time. And everyone that we invited to, be in the, I think everyone we invited said yes, and made a good faith effort. So we have seen this in the recent past. I did want to ask about the legal considerations. So if we were to pursue a more formalized process, would it be the city attorney that is then advising us kind of on these rules of evidence and due process and criminal investigations and all that with whatever we bring forward?
Yeah, so I think as a body, you would determine what the scope is and, James' question, what does success look like for that scope? And then we would try to draft out a process. Then you would have the legal department review it and say, hey, if you are going down this, either this part would not be appropriate for a council investigation, or if it is, here are considerations that you need to keep in mind for that part of the investigation. So I was just hesitant to put all of what, because I think the topic just changes the answer to that question.
If we wanted to look at policies and initiatives and procedures that may have a criminal investigation pending, is that something we would have to wait till the criminal investigation is finished before we could proceed with the policy and procedure?
I think you would want to remember that the end result of an investigation is just recommendations to the mayor. And so if you felt like something had a criminal component to it, at the end of the day, the right thing for that is a criminal investigation. And people do have rights when there is kind of a civil proceeding going at the same time as a criminal proceeding. And so you are going to see people probably exercise those rights until their criminal case is resolved.
Okay. So if we were to as a collective say, we want to look into this thing, if there were criminal investigations ongoing, we would be made aware of them at that time.
I would hope so in the
I would hope
review
so,
of it.
too.
Yes.
Given the lack of communication and transparency, I did want to ask that question.
Or if you were not aware of one.
Yeah.
And then something came upon that does need to go criminal, that is an opportunity that you probably need to pivot your process.
Yeah,
and
I think
refer
if
it.
there were something that we looked into, I asked a question
that's-
earlier today about some of the habitability stuff we're looking at, like at what point are we crossing over into criminality and where does that go? And I was told goes to the county. So, you know, as we start looking at things from our purview, I have, even on animal welfare or something like that, then we know like that has to go now into law enforcement when it's, you know, beyond something that we can be doing. So, I have found this to be very helpful. I think it's important that we look at the charter. We're tasked with doing it every 2 years. This year we did it, and then because of some other things that we needed to prioritize for a ballot, the proposals that we've made were set aside, but as a co-sponsor on several of those, I do plan to bring them back. I think as we are listening to constituents, especially as we're, you know, talking about a police chief, there are people asking us like what role we have in that, and it's very limited, although we did propose that maybe a charter change would empower us to have more of the people say on an ongoing basis when we have these department and division head changes. And that's true for any department head or division change. I'm just mentioning because of the town hall we attended last night and the feedback that I've had from constituents. There's an expectation that we would have more than just a recommendation lane in that area. And that's come up before, because this is, since I've been on, the third time we're conducting a search. So every time it comes up, people go, so when does the council, when do I get to come to council and see your vote and have a say? And there really isn't a provision for that. So, you know, the timing is such that probably charter amendments won't come back till 2027 at the earliest, I'm thinking, at this point. Or
Correct me, but before it was said that that's when we are required to.
But we can do it at
anytime.
any time, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Just legally, your ability to call an election in 2026
Well, that-
is
we just
going away.
We
You're
just
out of
did the
time.
lodging, so we just
Yeah.
did the lodging tax
Right.
last
Yes,
week
yes.
for November ballot.
Right.
Correct.
Are we still in a window for more November ballot things, or?
No.
I didn't think so.
No.
Okay,
So
so
this
the
would be next
earliest
year
that we
looking.
could revisit the proposed charter amendments we've already discussed, or any new ones,
Right.
would be for a February ballot, April ballot, June, August 2027, November.
But yes, you
Not
can
just
bring
2
them
years.
forward and study them at any time, and depending on the scale of your charter amendment, I've seen communities do a task force over a charter amendment. There's also charter amendments though that are more simple and they don't require that, so it just depends on what your topic is.
Could you also clarify the statement that the petition initiative supersedes the council?
So a citizen, you know, citizens can petition to change the charter or affect law, and if they do so, and that is successful by the people, the council can't pass anything that's inconsistent with
To
that.
undo it?
Mhm.
Okay. So again, a question that has come up to me.
Without going back
To the people.
Yes,
Yes,
I should
so-
say.
A good example of
Yeah.
that is when the state of Oklahoma legalized cannabis.
Sure, I know, yeah,
So
we've
it
seen it
happens
at the
local
state
level.
level.
It happens at the local
At the
level.
local level in 2011, there was a referendum and petition initiative that changed our terms of service and took the stagger out. So I do get a lot of questions about, why are you all up at the same time every 2 years? That doesn't seem like good governance. I've explained to them that a 3-year staggered,
We've tried it all.
well, we've had it before, but, you know, the people organized to change that. So, you know, again, learning our history, learning how changes can be made and have been made. The charter is essentially the constitution of our city, and so I think it's important for our citizens to understand our charter as much as they understand our state and federal constitutions, and keep revisiting. It's a living document. It's not easy to change. There's a reason that it has to be deliberative and that it ultimately has to be an agreement here before it goes onto a ballot, but that doesn't mean we can't make changes. So for all intents and purposes, the next opportunity we would have on a charter amendment discussion of any changes the earliest we could do it would be February of 2027. And then some of these other things, you know, we will have to continue in dialogue about a variety of things. You know, the last topic brought up some questions of like, do we need to strengthen ordinances? Is there something that needs to happen maybe at a charter level to make sure that the authorities we do have are being respected? And, you know, an ordinance is not a suggestion, it is the law. So sometimes I do get pushback from citizens that say, well, you're not a lawmaker, ordinances aren't law, and so they are. There are local laws, they have to be compliant with the state and the federal statutes, but they are laws. And resolutions are just policy, non-binding positions. So I think the more we can talk about these things, I think we take them for granted that we're doing resolutions and ordinances and proclamations, and we know what it means, but it's clear to me that we need to continue to simplify the terminology so that people just understand on a very practical level what it is that we do every day and what we could do and that we're not doing. And then things that they expect us to do that we definitely don't have the authority to do, and why. So thanks for this, it's very helpful.
Yeah, real quick follow-up on the citizen initiative petition, is it the same rules that the state follows, or?
Caroline's our local election
Yeah,
authority,
or
but
do they
I
follow
honestly, we do have.
signatures and that so many area, all of that.
We do have some.
Based on voting turnout,
Yeah.
all of that.
We do have some provisions, I believe, in our charter. There are also always state laws that play into it.
Right.
I would honestly have to go get my little petition initiative guide out of my office to go through what those timelines are and those votes required and things. But there are standards, just like at the state has.
We could put it on for an agenda just to maybe have a little presentation about, I don't think it's
Yeah.
as restrictive as the recent state changes.
Yeah, the recent state's very restrictive, that's why I was
Yeah.
asking.
Now, I don't know if those changes require us then to become more restrictive.
Right.
So it would be good to look at.
But I do have an outline of that process.
Yeah,
just curious.
Yeah, let's put it on for another.
One last question, and we'll wrap up, unless anybody else has any other questions. Okay, nobody else was in the queue. With respect to the fitness of people is it just for the civil service or
Yeah, the
fitness in?
classified service.
The classified service. So that doesn't impact anybody that's in the mayor's office that's outside of the classified service?
The charter provision, I think, is probably intended, without going back in the legislative intent, to protect the classified service, and that's why those comments go there. I don't see, and Caroline, you can disagree, I don't see a prohibition for commenting on fitness for duty of
Those outside
of the appointed, yes. But this is kind of, to me, a direction of who and how.
You're gonna want this, Kevin. You're
And
gonna-
comments
yeah, I know
that you
you're
should
leaving.
do.
Sounds like it's the lunch.
Did you have anything
I
on
see how it
that,
is.
Caroline, that you
Let the
wanted to
record
add?
reflect. Did you ask Caroline a question?
Yeah, I didn't know if she wanted to add anything
Oh,
to
yeah.
what I said on your question.
Can I add a question on top of that? If the comment for character and fitness, does that have to be a majority of the council, or can individual counselors?
Yeah,
assert?
that's where I was,
It's,
that's where I was going to.
it is individual counselors,
It's not like we take a vote.
yeah,
Well, but
so.
you-
But we have.
Well, but you can. It can be a counselor all the way to the council,
Yeah.
can't it?
Yeah, well, I'll find that
I mean,
provision.
we've done
I'll-
votes.
Oh, here,
I
it
can read
says
the part, because I think it might
I
answer
say, do you-
both questions.
the counselor.
Okay, it says, with some exceptions, neither the council nor councilors shall directly or indirectly attempt to dictate, demand, or influence the appointment or removal of any person to or from the classified service, provided the council or councilors may furnish the mayor information upon the qualification and fitness of any person for office, position, or employment with the city.
Okay, so for any person, so that really does open it classified or not
Furnishing
classified?
the mayor
Or
information.
appointed.
Right.
Okay, and then, so it could be one counselor on his or her own, two counselors on their own, 3 or 4.
Or it could be the council.
Right,
When
but
you get
once
to
you
five.
get to 5, you have to have a majority of the council support the letter of fitness, or
I
what's the
would-
opposite of,
I think it's the majority of a quorum.
okay.
So not a
it could be
supermajority.
4.
3 of 5, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, if
3
there's
or-
7 present, then there could be a 4-3
Right.
vote.
Yep, okay.
If we're doing a formal character and fitness or,
So it so and those are all, because they relate to an employee? Are those open records? Are they not open records? Where does HR fall in?
So, open
all of
records
that
are,
stuff?
open records are a different question than a charter question. So open records are governed by state law, and then the city has executive orders also around open records. And so I think, pull my open records knowledge out. So I think in state law, there are open record exemptions related to applications. And I believe applications may, by the governing entity, be able to be kept private. But that's from an open record standpoint, which is a citizen thing. You all are citizens, but you also are members of a government. And so I don't think open records is necessarily the only standard that council utilizes in that.
Maybe, I don't understand your answer to my question, but my question is probably bad to begin with. I'm just wondering if an individual counselor writes a letter about the fitness of an employee, is that letter open because it deals with
HR.
an HR matter?
So that's gonna follow under the Open Records Act standard, which isn't in front of me right now.
Yeah.
But the Open Records Act standard, I think, allows application materials that are submitted by the applicant to be kept as confidential, not to be
Yeah.
disclosed. I don't know that the Open Records Act totally, I think that would take some interpretation, contemplates our charter provision regarding character for fitness. I don't know if it explicitly
Okay.
says that.
Yeah, do you have anything?
One thing, you're
Yeah.
thinking of someone already in, if it were an employee,
Yes.
not an applicant.
Yeah,
Right,
an
right.
existing
Yeah.
employee.
I don't know
I
that
think
it
it would
would.
depend, but I would almost assume most of the time those would be open record, public record. So
Right.
if there was a
There's
letter
ways to
sent.
make
I don't know why I'm
recommendation
asking,
that are
I was just thinking.
In person.
You know, obviously, if the council acts, that's going to take place in public. So whatever
Right.
we're acting on, but if individual counselors are writing letters about the fitness of a current employee, in this case for my question, I was just wondering out loud if
Sure.
those two are open or if they're not because of the HR provisions. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else? We're going to lose everybody if we don't keep going. Okay, thank you very much. Can I read the other ones?
Yes.
Just together? Okay, they all have to do with travel authorizations of about $2,500 for October 5th through 7th for the chamber intercity visit to Kansas City for Hall Harper, Dutton, Bellis, Gilbert, Bingle, Dector, Wright, and Lakin. Do we need, so, anybody have any questions on those things? Yes, sir.
Thank you for the good work you did in scouting.
Oh, you're welcome.
So
Yep.
I think we're all definitely looking forward to this.
We will bring back a report to those of you who are
Yep,
not going.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm
Yep,
going.
and for Mr. and Mrs. Owens.
on a
Not
as well.
on a different dollar.
Thank you for that.
Just for the public, these items are on the agenda because your council rules require pre-authorization of council travel prior. I do not believe it will total those, because I imagine not everybody will individually take a car up by themselves.
We'll drive
Right.
So,
together.
but that,
We'll use our city funds efficiently.
Yes.
And these will be on for consideration tonight, and we'll let the chair split us up so we don't vote on our own authorizations.
Yes.
Anything else?
I get to vote on all of them.
Anyone else? If not, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Damn.
by holding out horizontally a white cane in the direction they wish to travel. The Tulsa Police Department takes this issue very seriously. We are here to protect all citizens of Tulsa. Any violation, particularly by motorists putting other Tulsans' lives at risk, you're gonna get a ticket. Help us keep you from getting a ticket and help keep Tulsans safe.
We all have a responsibility to share the road. Together, we can be kind and make streets a safer place for everyone.